Hi everyone, welcome to Elemental Flows. My name is Christina and thank you for joining me for today's practice. Today we'll get started lying down on our mats, but lying down on our stomach. So just come down to your mat. And once you're there, you can place one hand on top of the other and then gently rest your forehead on top of the hands. And let's initiate our practice by just doing one deep breath together. So on an inhale, let's breathe in through the nose and exhale out through the mouth. Let's just take these first few moments to ground into our practice. So become aware of how you're feeling today. And while you acknowledge that, I want you to also start to slow down your breath, following your own pacing and rhythm. And after recognizing what you're bringing into today's space, I want you to consider setting an intention for your practice today to allow whatever you're bringing in to flow through you. From here, we'll begin to move our bodies. So let's start by bringing one hand to either side of the chest, and we'll begin with some baby cobras. So on an inhale, let's press into the hands as we gently lift the chest off of the mat. Gaze is neutral and looking forward. And exhale, we release the chest back down to the ground. Let's repeat that a couple more times. Press into the hands on an inhale and lift the chest. See if you can get a little bit higher this time. And exhale, we release the chest back down. One more time. Inhale, press up. Exhale, we drop back down. Now from here, let's bend the left knee out to the side so that the leg makes a 90-degree angle here. And let's just hold this position for a couple of breaths. Allow your body to sink into the mat beneath you while we're here in this posture. Try to get your body to completely relax. And if you want to go a bit further from here, I invite you to try lifting your foot off of the ground just a few inches or so. If this is too much though, don't feel the need to add it into your practice. And let's release the foot back down to the ground if you had it lifted, and then we'll bring that leg behind us so that it meets the right leg again. Now from here, let's bend into that left knee one more time, and this time we'll reach around with our left hand to grab hold of our left foot. And while we're here, we're pressing that foot into the hand. You can try bending the elbow behind you if you also want to open up the chest a bit. And let's gently release the foot and the hand. Hand comes back to the top of the mat, and then we'll repeat that on the other side. So this time we take that right knee out to the right side and have that leg be on a 90-degree angle. Completely release the weight of your body here. And then from here, if you're adding in the foot lift, you can gently lift that foot off of the ground now. bring that foot back down if you had it lifted, and we'll send that left leg towards the back of the mat. Now we bend back into the right knee and reach around with the right hand to grab hold of the foot. You could also grab your ankle if that's more accessible for you. While we're here, we're thinking about pressing that foot into the hand. And again, you can bend the elbow behind you if you want to try and open up the chest a bit here too. And let's release that foot. Now from here, let's gently bring our chest off of the mat once again so that we can place our forearms underneath us to come into a Sphinx pose. Press down into the elbows to lift the crown of the head a bit higher. While we're here, we're thinking about opening up the chest. Gaze is neutral and forward. Now let's drop the chest back down to the ground. Let's press into the hands so that we can lift ourselves off of the mat, and we'll come back into a child's pose. So you could take either a wide-legged version or a closed-legged version. Either way, have the arms outstretched in front of you and drop the forehead to the mat. If you're in the wide-legged version, the big toes are still touching behind you and the knees are apart. Connect back to your breath. Good, and from here, let's walk the hands back towards us so that we could come up into a neutral tabletop pose. So our hips are over our knees here, shoulders are over our wrists. And let's do some rounds of cat and cow. So on an inhale, let's arch the spine as we lift the chin and chest up to the sky. And on an exhale, we round the spine, tuck the chin into the chest. Let's do a few more rounds of those. Inhale, we arch the spine and lift up. Exhale, we round the spine, tuck the chin in. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Now from here, come back into a neutral position. Let's press into the left hand so we could reach that right arm up to the sky. And on an exhale, we swing that right hand down and feed it through that hole on the left side so that we can bring the side of our heads down to the mat. So we come into our thread the needle pose here. And think about releasing any tension that you're noticing in your body at this moment. Now let's press back into the left hand to reach yourself back up. Lift that right arm up to the sky. See how much height you can get. And then drop that hand down to the mat, and we'll repeat on the other side. So now let's press into the right hand as we lift the left arm up to the sky. And then on an exhale, we feed that arm through over to the right side. Drop the side of the head down to the mat. Now let's press back again into that right hand to lift ourselves back up. Left arm reaches up to the sky, and then on an exhale, we drop that hand back down. Now from here, let's take that right leg out behind us, and we can do some heel presses here towards the back of the mat if that feels good for you. Have the core engaged while you're here though. And from here, come back into a neutral position, and we'll lift that leg off of the ground so that it's parallel to the floor. The right foot is flexed here, And just notice what changes in your body when you try and balance in this pose. Keep the core engaged, and once you have your stability, try to lift that left arm out in front of you. Hold it here for a moment, and then on an exhale, we bend the elbow and knee into the chest as we round the spine. On an inhale, we reach that arm and leg back out. Look for length in your body here before you drop the arm and leg down to the ground. We'll repeat that on the other side. So this time we start by pressing that left leg towards the back and doing some heel presses if that feels good in your body today. And then come into a neutral position here. Let's lift that left leg off of the ground. Keep that foot flexed here. Engage the cord as you still elongate out through the crown of your head. And then once you have your stability, try to reach that right arm out in front of you off of the ground. Look for length here before bending the elbow and knee on an exhale into the chest. And on an inhale, we reach back out again. Look for length before dropping that hand and knee down to the ground. Excellent. Now from here, we'll test our strength a bit. So let's start by tucking the toes, press into the hands, and then engage the core before you lift the knees about an inch or so off of the mat. Hold it here. Good, and gently drop those knees back down to the ground. We'll keep the toes tucked. We'll press into the hands and toes so we can send the hips up and back to come into our first downward facing dog. So from here, take any intuitive movements that you need. It's the first downward dog of the practice. So you can shift the hips side to side, move the head around. Notice where you may be holding a bit of tension in your body right now. And then just try to add some additional movement into those spaces so that they can be a little bit more limber. And then once you're ready, come to find stillness in this position. Then we'll look towards the top of the mat and walk the feet towards the hands. From here, on an inhale, we'll press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. On an exhale, we fold, the chest meets the thighs. Now let's ground through the feet first before coming up to a standing position. We're coming to our mountain pose with the arms reaching up overhead. And then we'll press the palms together and bring them down through heart center. Excellent. So now we'll do a few rounds of sun salutations here. So on an inhale, let's reach up with our arms. Exhale, we fold. On an inhale, press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, release, hands meet the mat. Let's step back into a plank pose here. You can drop down to your knees here if you prefer. We bend the elbows to lower ourselves down to the mat. And then on an inhale, we slide the chest forward and up to come into upward facing dog or cobra. I'm taking a cobra since my legs are still on the ground. Lower the chest back down to the mat. Tuck the toes, press into the hands, and then send the hips up and back to come back into a downward facing dog. Hold this for a breath. And look towards the top of the mat and walk the feet to the hands. On an inhale, we press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, we release, forward fold. Ground through the feet first before coming up on an inhale, arms follow up overhead, and then press palms together, bring them down through heart center. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, let's reach up. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, press up to a flat back. Exhale, release, hands meet the mat. Step the feet back to a plank pose. You could still come down to your knees if you like. Bend the elbows on an inhale to lower down through a chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest, tuck the toes, press into the hands and toes to send the hips up and back for downward facing dog. Take a breath here. And then look towards the top of the mat and walk the feet to the hands. On an inhale, we press up to a flat back. Exhale, we release, forward fold. Ground through the feet first before coming up to standing. Arms follow up overhead. And then bring the hands down through heart center. One more time, a little bit quicker this time. Inhale, we reach up. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, lift up to a flat back. Exhale, release, hands meet the mat. Send the feet back to come into a plank pose. You could drop to your knees if you like. Lower down through your chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale to release the chest back down to the mat. Tuck the toes, send the hips up and back to come into a downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Connect to your breath if you lost it. Good, and from here, we'll lift that left heel into the sky for a three-legged dog so the hips are square here. And then let's bend that knee to open up the hips. Shoulders are still square to the mat though. Extend the left leg back up into the sky so that it's straight. Flex that left foot now. And then on an exhale, we bend the knee and bring it into the nose and hold it for a moment. And then let's send that leg back up behind us for a three-legged dog. We'll do that 2 more times. On an exhale, we bend the knee to open up the hips. Inhale to straighten the left leg. Flex the foot. And then bend the knee into the chest. 1 more time. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, we bend the knee. Inhale, we straighten the leg. Exhale, bring the knee to the chest. Now let's drop that foot down in between our hands, ground through the feet first, and then on an inhale, we sweep the arms forward and up to come into our high lunge. Take a couple of moments here. Make sure that knee is directly over the ankle. Shoulders are away from the ears here. And on an exhale, let's bring the hands down to the mat. We'll press into the hands so we can lift that left leg and bring it towards the back of the mat. And we'll go through our vinyasa. On an exhale, we lower down through chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Release the chest back down, tuck the toes, press into the hands and feet to press back into a downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Good, and from here, we'll repeat that on the other side. So let's start by lifting that right heel into the sky. Hips are square to the mat, as are the shoulders. Right foot is flexed. And then let's bend that right knee so that we can open up the hip here. Keep the shoulders still square to the top of the mat. Now let's straighten that right leg once again. Flex the foot. And then on an exhale, we bend the knee and bring it into the chest. Hold it here and then send that right leg back up for three-legged dog. Exhale as we bend the knee and open up the hips. On an inhale, let's straighten the leg once again. And then exhale, bring that knee forward to the top of the mat. 1 more time. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, we bend. Inhale, we straighten the leg. Flex the foot. And then exhale, bring that knee to the top of the mat. Hold it for a moment here before placing that foot down in between the hands. Find the grounding of your feet first before sweeping the arms forward and up on an inhale. Hold this pose for a couple of breaths. The core should still be engaged here. Good, and now drop the hands back down to the mat. Press into the hands to send that right leg towards the back of the mat, and let's go through our vinyasa. So on an inhale, we lower, or on an exhale, we lower to the ground. On an inhale, we send the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, we release the chest back down to the mat. Tuck the toes, press into the hands, send yourself into your downward facing dog. Reconnect to your breath. I know you're probably building a bit of heat right now, as I am, but we're in this together. Good, now from here, let's look towards the top of the mat and we'll walk the feet towards the hands. Then on an inhale, let's press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, we fold, chest meets the thighs. Now from here, let's walk the feet in so that the big toes touch. And then from here, on an inhale, we'll take a deep bend in the knees and swing the arms forward and up to come into our chair pose here. So core is engaged. We're looking directly forward in front of us. Biceps are by the ears. Make sure you could see your big toes. So make sure the knees are pulled back so that you could see them. Good, and from here, we're going to transfer the weight into our right leg so we can lift that left foot and send it towards the back of the mat to come back into our high lunge. Take a breath here. See if you can go a little bit deeper into that high lunge this time. Good, and now from here, let's drop the hands down to the mat and we'll swivel our hips and chest so that they face the long edge of the mat. As we do so, we drop the hips because we're coming down into our skandasana. So the left leg is extended out to the side, the left foot is flexed, toes are pointing up to the ceiling. You can also have a block here and place it underneath you if you want the additional support. In this pose, we're thinking about turning our chest towards the side to open it up to the ceiling. And we want to make sure that we have a long spine here. So that's why if you're rounding in this pose, it might be helpful to have a block and place it underneath you for the additional support. Good, now from here, let's drop the hands down to the mat. As we do so, we'll push off of that right leg so that we come into the middle of the mat. So now toes face towards the long edge of the mat. And on an inhale, we'll press the hands into the mat to elongate our spine for a flat back. And on an exhale, let's drop the crown of the head down to the ground. Walk the hands back so that the wrists are in line with your heels here. And just hold it here for a couple of breaths. While we're here, really think about releasing that low back. Try and think about the head just hanging heavy here. Now from here, let's walk the hands towards the top of the mat again. We'll bend into that right knee so that we can turn the toes around. So we're coming into a runner's lunge at the moment. So our toes are facing forward, our back heel's off the ground. And then from here, we'll walk that right foot so that it goes to the outside edge of the mat so we could come into our lizard pose. So you could take any variation of lizard that you want here. I'll take this one, but you can drop the back knee down to the mat. You could also use a block to go on your forearms or directly go and bring your forearms down to the mat. But any variation that you take, the main thing that I want you to focus on here is really sinking those hips down closer towards the ground as you maintain a long spine. You might want to add some movement here, as you can see me doing, only if it feels good in your body. Your practice doesn't need to look like mine. I'm just here as a guide. And from here, come back onto your hands if you are on your forearms. Tuck the toes and lift that back knee if you had dropped it to the ground. Then we'll press into the hands so we can lift that right foot and send it towards the back to go through our vinyasa. So take the knees to the ground if you need. Let's bend the elbows to go through our chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Send the chest back down to the mat. Tuck the toes, press into the hands. Push the hips up and back into a downward facing dog. Nice work, everyone. Again, connect to your breath if you lost it. And now we'll repeat that sequence on the other side. So let's look towards the top of the mat so we can walk the feet towards our hands. On an inhale, we'll press the hands into the shins to come up to a flat back. Exhale, release, forward fold. Now drop the hands down to the mat and walk the feet in so that the big toes touch together. And then on an inhale, take a deep bend in the knees as you swing the arms forward and up to come into your chair pose. Again, engage the core here. Try and make it so that your thighs are parallel to the floor here. And now we'll slowly begin to transfer our weight over to that left foot so we can lift that right foot as gracefully as we can and send it towards the back of the mat to come back into our high lunge. Hold here for a few breaths. And again, see if you can drop the hips a little bit further. Make sure that left knee is still over that left ankle. Good, and from here, let's drop the hands down to the mat. And then we'll swivel our hips and chest so that they face the long edge of the mat. As we do so, we drop the hips. We flex that right foot to come into our Skandasana. Again, you could take the block here and place it underneath your bottom so you could sit on it if you need help to elongate the spine or if you just want the additional support in this posture. As we're here, we're trying to turn our chest over to the side so that we can lift the chest up to the ceiling. You can see I'm less stable in this pose, and you might find the same, that one side is a bit better than the other. That's very natural and normal. Now drop the hands down to the mat and we'll push off of that left foot so we come into the middle of the mat. The toes of both feet now face the long edge of the mat, and on an inhale, we'll press the hands down to the ground to lift up into a flat back. And on an exhale, we drop the crown of the head down to the ground. You can place the wrists so that they're in line with the heels, but you could also take another variation here if you want. You could interlace the hands behind you if you like to help open up the chest a bit. Or you could take any other variation you prefer. While we're here, still think about releasing that head, allowing it to hang heavy as we release that lower back. Good. Now from here, let's start to walk the hands towards the top of the mat. And we'll bend into that left knee so we can turn our toes and lift the back heel off the floor to come into a runner's lunge. So both hands are in the inside of that left foot. Now from here, let's walk that foot to the outer edge of the mat to come into our lizard pose. And again, take any variation that you like here. So you could drop the knee or come down to your forearms. And maintain the integrity of the spine here. Try and sink those hips a little bit deeper. See where you can release a bit more tension that you may be holding on to. Now from here, let's press into the hands. So come off of the forearms if you were down on the ground and lift up the back knee if you had dropped it. Press into the hands so that we can send that left leg behind us, and we'll go down through our vinyasa. So on an exhale, let's lower down to the mat. Send the chest forward and up on an inhale for upward facing dog or cobra. Lower the chest back down, tuck the toes, press into the hands to come back into your downward facing dog. Reset here. Again, find that connection to your breath. Take any additional movements if you need. And then come to find stillness in this pose. Notice the effects of this practice and the effects that it's having on your body. And it's okay if you feel no different from when you started. And it's just a cue to observe so you can remain connected to your body, to your breath, to yourself. And now from here, let's lift that left leg back into the sky. And then we'll bend the knee and bring it towards the top of the mat so we could drop that left foot on to the ground. Hold it here. Find your grounding first before sweeping the arms forward and up to come back into your high lunge. Take a moment here. See if you can sink those hips a bit deeper. Now let's open up the hips and chest to the long edge of the mat. As we do so, we drop that back heel down, our arms lower to shoulder height, and we turn our head so that the gaze is forward just past the fingertips to come into our warrior two. Make sure that your shoulders are over your hips here so that you're not leaning forward or backwards. And now we'll straighten that front leg. And now we'll lean forward. Lean as far as you can go. Then when you can go no further, drop that hand down to the mat as you send the right arm up to the sky to come into our Trikonasana or triangle pose. So you can also use a block here and place it underneath that left hand if you want to bring the floor a bit closer to you. But in this pose, we're thinking about elongating out through both sides of the body. So try not to crunch in into the left side here. Now from here, let's drop that right hand down to the mat. And we'll start to bend into that front knee so that we can come forward and transfer the weight so that it is all on that left leg. Now from here, we'll lift that right leg up behind us so that it's parallel to the mat. So we're coming into our warrior three here. So our right foot is flexed, the toes are pointing down towards the ground. And if you have your warrior three or are working with it, you could try lifting the hands off of the ground and bring them either in front of your chest in a prayer pose, or you could send them towards the back or bring them out in front of you. If you're not there yet though, still keep the hands on the mat, and you could even use blocks and place it underneath your hands here to try and get a little bit more lift out of your warrior three. So hold your warrior three, whichever variation you're taking here. Remember to engage the core, the hips and chest are square to the mat. And then we'll slowly start to lift ourselves up so that we drop that right leg. And instead of bringing it down to the ground, try not to touch the floor. Instead, bend that right knee up towards your chest. Engage your core. Find your balance here. Think about being lifted from the heel out through the crown of the head. And then gently drop that right foot down to the ground. Let's go through a vinyasa or sun salutation. On an inhale, let's reach up to the sky. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, press up to a flat back. Exhale, release. Bring the hands down to the mat as you step back into a plank pose. Lower down through your chaturanga. Slide the chest forward and up for upward facing dog or cobra. Then lower the chest back down, tuck the toes, press back into a downward facing dog. Now let's repeat that sequence on the other side. So this time we lift that right leg into the sky and then bend the knee, bring it forward so you could drop that foot in between the hands. Ground through the feet first before sliding the arms forward and up to come into a high lunge. Again, see how deep you can sink into your high lunge here. And then let's open up the chest and hips to the side as we drop that back heel down. Arms drop so that they're at shoulder height, gazes forward just past the fingertips for a warrior two. And from here, let's straighten that front leg. And now we'll lean forward with that right hand and go until you can reach no further, and then drop that hand down to the mat as we send the left arm up to the sky. Again, you can use the block here if you like. While we're here, we're thinking about turning that chest towards the ceiling and keeping both sides of the torso elongated. Now from here, let's drop that left hand down to the mat. We'll bend into the right knee so we can bring that back leg a bit closer. We could transfer the weight over to that right leg completely. And then let's lift that left leg up so that it's parallel to the ground. Is flexed. And you can try whatever variation of warrior three that you like. So again, you can take your arms or hands off of the mat. Remember to engage the core here. Think about maintaining a long line from that left heel all the way out through the crown of your head in this pose. The hips are square here, as is the chest. And then from here, let's slowly start to come into a standing position. Try not to allow that left foot to touch the ground as you sweep it through and bend the knee and bring it up towards the chest. Hold this position here, engage the core, elongate from that right heel all the way out through the crown of the head, and then gently lower that left leg down to the ground. Excellent work, everyone. Let's do a sun salutation. So on an inhale, we reach up. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, press up to a flat back. Exhale, release. Hands meet the mat as you step back into a plank pose. Let's go through our chaturanga. So on an exhale, we lower. Slide the chest forward and up to upward facing dog or cobra. Release the chest back down, and this time we'll press into the hands to come back into a child's pose. You can take either a closed-legged version of child's pose or a wide-legged version. Again, listen to your body. Recognize what it needs right now, and then provide it with what you can give it. Allow yourself to completely release the full weight of you. And connect back to your breath again. Now let's slowly start to walk our hands back towards us and lift ourselves back up. And now we'll take the legs out in front of us while still being in a seated position here. So from here, let's keep the right leg on the ground. We'll bend the left knee to bring it towards us and then gently drop it out to the side so that the sole of the left foot comes to meet the inner right thigh. And on an inhale, we'll reach the arms up overhead and exhale, fold over that right leg. Now there'll be a natural round of the spine, but I really want you to think about, again, elongating out through the spine. So while we're here, we're thinking about bringing the crown of the head closer to the foot, as opposed to turning that head and curling it into the thigh. And now lift yourself back up. We'll now take the foot and bring it in closer to the pelvis. And now we'll take that left arm out to the side and bring it up overhead so that it tries to reach over to that right foot. So while we're here, we're turning the chest towards the ceiling as we're reaching out through those left fingertips. Now from here, let's drop that left hand right behind us. We'll press into the left hand so we can lift the hips off of the floor. The right arm comes around and back as we arch the spine. So we come into a half wild thing here. So while we're here, think about arching through the entire spine as opposed to just the low back, as you send those hips forward out in front of you. Now gently release and bring it back down. Now from here, if you want an additional stretch or additional challenge, bring that right knee into the chest to grab hold of your foot. And then let's lift that left leg, or lift the right leg, extend it out in front of us. Straighten the spine here. Try not to allow the shoulders to round too much. Keep everything lifted, including the chest here. And let's gently drop that foot down to the ground. Bring both legs back out again in front of you. And on an inhale, we'll reach up overhead. And exhale, we'll fold over the legs to reset. Slowly bring yourself back up. And now we'll repeat that on the other side. So this time, let's bend the right knee. Bring that knee out to the side so that the foot meets the inner thigh. And on an inhale, we'll reach the arms up overhead. And exhale, we'll fold forward over that left leg. Make sure that the shoulders are square here to the mat. And again, think about elongating out through the spine here. Good, and from here, bring yourself back up. We'll take that right foot a bit closer into the pelvis here. And now we'll reach out with that right arm and bring it over towards the left toes. Make sure both sit bones are grounded into the mat here. Now let's bring yourself back up. The right hand comes behind you. Press the hand into the mat so you can lift the hips up. And as we do so, we swing that left arm around to come into our half wild thing. Remember to arch the entire spine as you press those hips out. Now let's gently lower the hips back down to the ground. And again, if you're going for the additional stretch, let's bend that left knee into the chest so we could grab hold of that foot and then extend that leg out in front of us. Keep the chest open here, elongate through the spine. And then gently drop that leg down to the ground. Bring that right leg back out. And on an inhale, we'll reach both arms up overhead. Fold them over both legs. And then from here, we'll start to engage the core as we slowly roll back. The arms are out in front of us as we make our way down to the mat. And release once you get there. From here, we'll take our right knee into our chest. Hold it for a moment. And then with the left hand, guide that right knee over to the left side. You can place a block underneath here if you want the additional support or to lift the ground a bit closer to you. The right arm extends out to the side. Try and make sure that right shoulder blade stays grounded onto the floor. And if it feels nice in your body, you can turn the head over to the right. Now bring that knee back into the midline and we'll repeat on the other side. So extend the right leg out. This time the left knee comes into the chest. Hold it for a second. And then with the right hand, guide that left knee over to the right side as the left arm extends out. And again, you could turn the head if that feels comfortable in your body. And bring that knee back into the midline. We'll do a couple more asanas. So we'll take both knees into the chest here. Bring them out so that they're shoulder width distance apart. We lift the soles of the feet to the ceiling. As we do so, we reach on the inside of the inner thigh so that we could grab the outer edges of our feet and press the hands or press into the feet. So we bring the knees closer to the ground for a happy baby here. And you can add some additional movement here, such as rocking side to side. Now let's gently release the feet, bring them back down to the ground so the soles of the feet are on the mat. Bring the feet and knees so that they're hip width distance apart. Arms come by the side here. And on an inhale, we'll press into the hands and feet so we can lift the hips off of the mat to come into a bridge pose. And if you want, you could take a supported version of bridge here by just placing a block underneath your hip bones here. Now remove the block if you were using one and we'll gently lower our hips back down to the ground. And we'll take one final stretch here. Extend the legs out, reach the arms overhead and elongate out through the entire body. And exhale, release. bring the arms by your sides and come into your Shavasana. Close the eyes if that feels good for you. And let's just take one deep breath here together. On an inhale, breathe in through the nostrils. And exhale out through the mouth. I invite you to stay in this Shavasana a little bit longer if you like. But otherwise, if you feel ready to continue on with the rest of your day, feel free to do so. I thank you all for joining me in this practice today. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know how it went for you in the comments. But otherwise, I hope to join you on the mat again. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.